Good morning, everyone. Today, first of all, good Tavach. We have Dave Emster here. Dave is in the house.
Here's a Kesser. Best, he's the best.
Oop. Okay, I caught it.
We gotta get one.
Okay, first of all, we have to do a quick recap. Thank you, Michael, Aaron, for joining me yesterday morning. And we were joined by a number of wonderful people that came on and joined the class as we navigated our way through chapter 31. I'm just going to give a quick recap of yesterday. And that is that we were talking about looking and breaking our spirit, because if we're acting ourselves, then obviously we make a lot of mistakes. So if we're trying to improve, we try to break ourselves down. And part of that process is being bitter about and remorseful about the things that we've done. I mean, it's natural to, obviously we're not perfect. We sin here and there. We do the best we can. But instead of looking at it and getting yourself into a sad mood or being saddened by your past sins, we instead flip the script a little bit to say bitterness. Bitterness might be a better term to use when you're trying to reevaluate what you've done in the past and how to resolve move forward in the future. So bitterness is not bitterness is not necessarily a negative thing. And also we explained that it comes from klipas noiga versus the other side, which will just say like sitra is the other side. That's where sadness comes from. Bitterness could be used to challenge yourself and to, be upset at your actions. That's okay. If we were just cool with everything we did, how are we going to improve? Okay, that's as far as yesterday's concerned. So we're going to breeze through that. Now, this week, actually, each day is rather short, but it is one of the greatest chapters of Tanya. Perek Lamed Beis. You see, I didn't even have to say, you knew already. Reb David, nothing gets by you. Perek Lamed Beis is known as one of the greatest chapters in Tanya. Often, if you want to, somebody says, I was once getting on a plane with a guy actually lives in town. We were both coming from Minnesota together, and we're stuck in the airport. It was snowy, surprise. So we were stuck in the airport for a few hours. So we both got on the same flight. And he says, listen, I've always wanted to learn Tanya. So if we're going to fly together, let's sit together and learn Tanya. I'm like, oh, I just wanted to take a schluff. I'm so tired. I'm like, okay, there has to be a reason. So we learned in the Wednesday night shir that if you're stuck in the airport or if you find yourself somewhere, you don't find yourself, you put yourself, Hashem is waiting for you to fulfill your mission. So we learned Perek Lamed Beis. He said, I knew you were going to do Perek Lamed Beis. I've heard about this one. Page 52, overview of chapter 32. So 32, the numerical value is Lev. Lev, the Lamed Beis is 32, and Lev also means heart. So it's no coincidence that the 32nd chapter of Tanya speaks about love. So that's the central meaning, that's the central theme of this chapter, the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel, to love one's fellow Jew. Indeed, it's the central theme of the whole Torah. So the Alter Rebbe breaks it down a little bit in ways that you might not expect if you haven't learned this chapter of Tanya at some point. So in the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe's advice to one who is bitterly remorseful of the lowliness of one's animal soul in the meditation, notwithstanding that state that a person has, obviously a divine soul, which is literally a part of God. And by focusing on liberating that spirit and the joy in one's godly connection, one can rise above all sadness and bitterness and celebrate Hashem's connection to God. So instead of looking at it and when you're upset with yourself and upset with your actions, because that's you, it's part of you. Tzaddikim look and they say, oh, I'm feeding my soul. I'm feeding my animal soul. It's a necessary evil. I got to do that. But it's like two separate things. Not with us. We like to run and jump and play and do all the narishkeit that, I felt like literally after davening, I was so hungry yesterday. And I'm thinking it must be my animal soul. I was hungry. I didn't eat breakfast. And after teaching for 3 weeks about not running to the buffet, as I'm taking shalt, I'm like, what am I doing? It was too late. I had it in my bowl. I sat down. And every bite I was thinking, I could have waited another, So Levi was scooping his shalom. I took the scoop away from him, and I took one scoop in my bowl. And then the guy standing there saw it, and he gave his scoop to Levi. I was like, no, don't do that. My kid can wait for me for a second. I kind of taught myself, and I was schooled there. I taught myself a lesson. But it was good to go through those motions because you realize, you know what? You could wait an extra minute, But that's the whole idea. But instead of getting sad, like, oh, I can't believe I failed the mission, after I specifically used that as an example, you could use that as a springboard for joy. Okay, I figured it out. I know what I did wrong. I'm going to do better next time. You have a few moments of remorse, bitterness. I was upset with myself. You would probably be in the same situation. You would say, why did I have to do that? Sure, I could have waited it out. But instead of being miserable the rest of the day, you use it as a stepping stone towards joy and connection to Hashem. Now we're going to discover how taking that transcendent approach is also the key to truly achieving Ahavas Yisroel, loving one's fellow Jew. For one, is focused on the commonality of the soul connection above the divisiveness of body-related causes, and the unity and oneness that results is indeed all of the Torah and the rest is commentary. I was going to give a twist and a different approach to Ahavas Yisroel, so follow along. In today's lesson, when one realizes that it is not the physical body that is of most importance, rather it's the spirit, one can easily achieve a love for their fellow Jew. Before we even get into it, I'll just say like this. Ahavas Yisroel means treating somebody the way you would want to be treated. And the question is, who's the real you? What is the real you? If it's, I like ice cream, so give me ice cream before you take ice cream for yourself, or vice versa. I want to treat someone else the way I want to be treated, so I'm going to give him the first bowl of shalom. But if it's the physical body that we're concerned about, the animalistic tendencies to eat, to sleep, to drink, to party, to be happy on a physical sense, then there's no end to it. I told the story about the so-and-so that said, if you would have gone to college, you could have made so much money. I said, I have a nice house. I'm happy. I have a family, whatever. He goes, yeah, but you could have had a much bigger house. Versus the person who was telling me this house, multiple homes, a plane, it doesn't end. But if your service in this world is to serve Hashem and to focus on the soul aspect of your existence, then whatever it takes, like his house is falling apart and he doesn't understand. Well, the Alter Rebbe sent someone to him to figure out how to deal with his problems because he had no problems. Reb Mendel Futtervas is in Siberia labor camp and he's like, I'm so happy I could serve Hashem in a place where not too many people could serve Hashem in this way. It's an amazing concept. 1 second, Zev, listen to this. So if we are trying to satisfy someone the way our animal tendencies, again, we need to eat, we need to sleep and everything else. But if that's our true essence, then it's just one desire after the other. There's no end. But if we want to love somebody the way we love ourselves, what's our true selves? What's the essence of who we are? The godly soul. The portion of God that's within us. And what does the godly soul want to do? Connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Be one with God. So the way I want to be treated, if it's my animal soul, I need nice ice cream, make me breakfast, make sure my parking spot is available, make sure the rain is there. Everything has to be perfect and from a worldly Kashmistic approach. But if we're focused on the essence of who we are, what does the essence of my soul want? To connect to Hashem. So what is the true essence of what Adam's soul wants? To connect to Hashem. So I have to treat him the way I want to be treated, which is help him in his connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's true Ahavas Yisroel. Does that make sense? We're going to try to unpack that over the next few days, but that's the nekuda here. In the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe taught that when one is bitterly remorseful over his sorry spiritual state, he must strive for joy considering the following. True, this is what we learned yesterday, Michael. True, on account of his body and his animal soul, he is utterly remote from Hashem, yet within him is a divine soul. It's a portion of Hashem himself. So this soul is within a gullus, just like the Jewish people today. are still in Golos. So the divine soul is within Golos, within that animalistic soul that wants to be the first on the chalent line, that wants to run out of his share because he wants to do something and watch something and do. That's just that the godly soul is trapped in that Golos. So one should therefore strive constantly to release it from this exile and to return it to its divine source. And how? Through engaging in the Torah and mitzvahs. That way you start to just like the Rebbe encouraged us to live and start preparing and live as if Mashiach is right here. And we have to make that vessel. We hear the footprints, we hear the footsteps of Mashiach. And we have to live Mashiach life because any moment's going to happen. So too, how do we give our neshama the taste of redemption? By learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, giving it that ability to connect to Hashem on that level. That's giving it its release from the exile that it's in. So now, what do we do? Such a return will bring great joy, the joy of freedom. Sometimes when you learn a shtickle, David, you can relate to this. You learn a shtickle, you open up, whether it's a Chumash or a Gemara or Chassidus, a Maimar, a Sicha, you learn it, and if you learn it with somebody else, you also that helps because the two souls are connecting in a powerful way. And you're learning a little piece of Torah, and you just feel so good. If you know, you know. It's not describable because everybody has a different way of thinking and a different way of feeling. Jeff, you know what I'm talking about. You're learning. Absolutely. You're learning over a piece of Torah, and sometimes I find that when I'm learning Gemara and I'm struggling with it, and then it comes to me and it's like that aha moment, there's like a euphoric feeling which is hard to describe. It's like, Geschmack, like wonderful. And you want to say to someone, they're like, yeah, great. You can't share that feeling with somebody else. It's just not shareable. It's something that you have in your heart. So it's a tremendous joy. There could be an outward joy as well. Oh, I finished the sugya. Great. But there's a joy, there's an internal incredible joy, and it's partly the joy of freedom that your soul is experiencing. So the knowledge that the body and the animal soul remain in their unfortunate state should not disturb one's joy on account of the divine soul. Okay, you look at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I said this to so-and-so. My language wasn't nice. I thought ugly thoughts. I went the wrong place. I shouldn't have gone. I lost my temper. I was angry. I was jealous. All these different things. You know what? Don't get carried away with that, because right now your soul is celebrating the Torah that you learned and the mitzvahs that you do. The soul should be infinitely more precious in one's eyes. Instead of focusing on all the external factors of the animal soul that it needs. The food didn't taste so good, and my pillow this, and my car ran out of gas, and all these things that the animal soul gets disturbed by. Let the godly soul shine. Let the godly soul celebrate its victories of the learning and the mitzvahs and the davening. You go through one part of davening and you like, oh, I felt such a connection. I remember when we were learning that, when we go through those parts of Tanya, we learn about the different meditations and kavanah you're supposed to have. So then the next davening, you try to put that into practice, and it feels like it goes so much better. That's what we should focus on. And now there's only 2 paragraphs here and we're done. Based on what we mentioned previously, that you should use your body with scorn and contempt. So what should you do? If we're going to be joyful, it should be joy with and through the godly soul. That's where your joy should come from and should be celebrated. It is a direct and easy path towards fulfilling the mitzvah of you should love your fellow as yourself. With regard to l'chol nefesh Yisroel, to every single Jew, migadol ve'ad katan, from great to small, and we're talking about in spiritual stature. So when the focus in life is on your neshama, your godly soul, then it's easy to have Ahavas Yisroel, because you look at somebody else. I'm saying it's easier, put it that way, to have Ahavas Yisroel, because you're looking at somebody else, not how he presents himself and how he talks and how he may think and the way he acted and the way he didn't, you asked him a favor and he didn't do it and he didn't come through for you. And and there's ways you could be upset, or he doesn't smell so good, or he doesn't talk so nice, or whatever it might be. That's the external factors. And if we drill into our minds, we practice this idea, this concept of it's not the externality, the nefesh habahamis that he's exhibiting, but it's the internal aspect of who he truly is. That's the essence of the person. And that's the essence of what I'm trying to please in my approach when it comes to having Ahavas Yisroel. So the takeaway, obviously, we're going to continue. This is the first two paragraphs of chapter 32. But the takeaway is there's no difference between you and your fellow. You're both created by Hashem and given this divine soul that's now in the gullus of the animal soul, which is inside of you. All the differences are external. Think about it. The godly soul is a portion of God. It's one with Hashem. So you and I are on the same boat. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your level of observance is, how you act. Internally, you have that godly soul, and it's all Hashem Echad. It's all one. It's all one and of the same. So we pay attention to the truth, and that way you will love your fellow the way you love yourself, because you're not going to be loving the things that your external body likes to do, but that which your soul likes to do, and that's all one and of the same. Loving Hashem, fearing Hashem, davening, learning, and performing mitzvahs. So let's do it. We're on our road to understanding the deeper meaning of Ahavas Yisroel, and God willing, that will bring us to the greatest joy possible. And God willing, Mashiach will come and explain it even further. May that be. B'mheira b'yameinu, amen. Have a wonderful day, Chevra, and a wonderful week. Don't forget, it's still Adar. Next week will be the new month of Adar Sheni, and we're getting closer and closer to Purim. So continue to increase in joy every single day. Marbim b'simcha, Chevra, marbim b'simcha.